where you can find the getting started documentation, the feature overviews, or the tutorial videos. If at any point in time you get stuck while performing any operation, whether you're logged into the environment, whether you're working in one of the add-ins in Navisworks or in Revit, you can jump back up into the cloud here, click on the little blue chat button in the bottom right corner, and fire up a new conversation with someone from the team. And as I mentioned, I do have a couple of colleagues on the webinar here today with me. They will be answering questions in the question and answer section of the Zoom meeting. So if you guys do have any questions, please feel free to shoot them over there. Great. So let's head back to the home page and let's log in. We know how to do this. We select we put in our email address and our password. We select our hub, and then we land on the project page. Now, the first thing we are going to see when we jump onto a project is the number of issues right here. And it says 872 issues. So there will be times where we see varying numbers depending if we're on the dashboard, if we're on the issues page, or if we're in our metrics and creating reports. So if I click on this project, I immediately land on the dashboard, and I see over here in the right corner that there are 386 project issues. These 386 issues right here are referring to active issues. If I jump to the archived issues page, you'll notice we have 187 issues. And if I jump to the issues page, I have 685. So we're already seeing a bunch of different numbers of issues here. Now I've gone ahead and made this little note right here, and I'm going to pull it over onto my other screen to kind of show you guys exactly what these issues and what these numbers mean. So as I mentioned from the project page, we saw 872 project issues. Here on the dashboard, we have 386 active project issues. So if we do a quick little subtraction right here, that means there are 486 closed and or archived issues. If we take a look at some of our metrics in a minute, we'll notice that there are 299 closed issues. We see that that means there are 187 archived issues, which was the number we had seen here on the archived issues page. So if we minus that 486, take away 187, we're going to have 299 closed issues. On the issues page, we saw 685. That means there are 685 active and closed issues. It has nothing to do with the archived issues we have up here. So if we take those 685 total issues and remove the 386 active that we had seen on the dashboard, we're down to 299 closed issues. So I'm hoping this kind of helps clarify the varying numbers we see in multiple locations within BIMTrack. And this does affect our metrics, and we're going to see some of these numbers again in a minute. Perfect. So a few more people have joined since we've started. Welcome to the webinar. If you guys have any questions today, please go right ahead and use the question and answers portion of the Zoom meeting. I've got some colleagues online, and they're going to help answer those questions, and anything that I need to, address live around the end of this webinar, we're going to handle that today together. So let's start with the metrics. Right here, we have the metrics page. Whenever I get into metrics and start explaining how they work and how we extract this metadata, I always like to take a real far step back in time and talk about the project settings. So that's where we're going to head first. Project settings. And in the general settings, there's a very important option right here. It is the mandatory attributes. When it comes to metrics, like I said earlier, we are extracting metadata. This metadata are the attributes that are assigned to an issue. So if we know or we feel that there is a metric or an attribute that we absolutely want to be reporting and recording or seeing, make that mandatory attribute here. Specify that here. Otherwise, we're able to push issues into BIMTrack without that data. So you'll notice here that all of my issues are going to contain a due date, an issue group, a priority, a status, and a type. I purposely left zone non-mandatory, and we're going to see why that is in a minute here once we get back to the metrics page. So the first thing I always like to check is, what are my mandatory issue attributes? Specify them. Think about what it is we want to be extracting. Make that mandatory right here so we know we're going to have data-rich information on the metrics page. Perfect. Here we are, metrics. Right along the top, I see a bunch of days here, a bunch of numbers. 11.2 days is the average time to close an issue. As the project progresses, this number may stay varying. It may stay constant. It may vary slightly, but it's always going to display the average time to close an issue right here. Beside that, we have the average opened issue age. So it's taking the total number of issues in the project, calculating how long an issue is open. What's the average opened issue age? It differs. It's different from the average time it takes to close an issue. This is the average opened issue age. Again, on the right, we have the total number of issues, 872. That is including issues that are in the archived issues page. You notice the first issue in the issues attribute chart right here, we're looking at how the issues are divided amongst all of the users on my project. This number right here, all of these numbers right here, if I add them up, they will not equal 872 because these are not including archived issues yet. But as soon as I switch this over, keep an eye on this blue user right here who has 7 issues assigned to him. When I include archived issues, that number jumps to 111. So again, unless I'm asking BIMTrack to include archived issues, these numbers right here will not add up to 872. Perfect. That explains the top row right there. Again, if you guys have any questions, please use the question and answer portion of the Zoom meeting. So first thing I like to do is switch my chart over here to the donut. It's just a personal preference. You can keep them as pies. You can put them as donuts if you'd like. That's up to you. The first filtering option we have right here by default is assigned to. So the first piece of information I'm immediately seeing in my metrics is how my issues are being divided amongst the contributing users. Even though my assigned to attribute was not mandatory, I keep this as data rich as possible. I don't particularly personally enjoy having unassigned issues in my project, and I try to project that out there as much as possible. And as I can see here, I have nothing that is not set. Now, if we were an individual user, we may want to select our name right here and start following a very specific path. But if we are the project coordinators, we may be interested in how those issues are broken up, who they're assigned to, but we may be more interested in the status of our issues right out of the gate. And I immediately start recognizing some numbers here. My closed or resolved issues, 299. If we take a look back at our little sticky note from before, the total number of issues minus the 386 active ones equals 299 right there. And if we take the closed archived and we minus out the archived issues, we land on 299 again. So there we go. Now, depending on how we've set up our project settings, as of late, if you guys attended the last webinar, you'll remember that I'm a firm supporter or believer in the new issues or opened issues are called new. And once a user starts working on it, contributing to the project, has retrieved it, has commented on it, I ask them to switch their status to in progress. So right now I can see that I've got 167 new issues versus the 120 in progress issues that my users are working on. This is already a lot of great information for me. I may be very interested in the 167 new issues, so I click on that portion of the donut chart and it will break down for me. And again, it defaults to who those issues are assigned to, but I have the ability of changing. I can say out of those 167 new issues, show me the priority. So I'm looking at quite a few medium priority issues. Some critical and high, they look to be pretty similar. I'm very actually interested in those critical new issues, so I click it again and we break down one more time. I may be interested in knowing what those issues are. Quite a few clashes, some modeling errors, some issues, and some requests. Let's take a look at the clashes. Obviously, I'm very interested in clashes, so there we go. Now I can see who those clashes are assigned to, and I'm sure you guys are seeing a pattern here. We're following a path. We're perhaps getting answers to questions maybe we didn't know we even had yet. And if at any time I'm interested in seeing those issues, either those 17 issues that are divided amongst those 3 users, or if I'm interested in seeing those 26 critical issues, or those 167, I can just click right here where it says 26 issues found, or 167 issues found. And I'm going to do this with my scroll button on my mouse because it opens a new tab for me. And if we head there, I'm on the issues page. I'm looking at those 167 results because a filter has automatically been applied for me. And if I head all the way down to the bottom here and I click on those 17 issues with my scroll button, they open in a new tab as well. Now we've got a few options here. We can start opening individual issues and commenting and doing that sort of thing. Or we can create a quick filter. And we know what quick filters do for us in the add-ins. We're going to see what they can do for us when it comes to metrics and reports. So we'll call this one here. These are the 17 critical. Perfect. We can make it shared. We can keep it personal. I'll just keep it personal today. Close that down. Back over here. Let's create another quick filter. These are the 167 new issues. Perfect. Great, we can close that down. We can close that tab as well. Now at any point in time, if we go to the issues page, we can reapply that quick filter. If we go into the add-ins, we can of course apply that quick filter to see these issues. Great. We've used the metrics to follow a path based off of the status of the issues that are piquing our interest, that are of a specific severity within the project, that are of a specific type, then that are perhaps assigned to specific individuals. And speaking of specific individuals, if we head back to the top, if we're an end user and we're interested in seeing the issues that are assigned to us personally, I'm very interested in my mechanical users issues here. So if I select it, I can see who authored those issues for me. I may not be so interested in who's sending me the work. I'm just interested in getting it fixed. And my mechanical user here is very interested in the zone that the issues reside in. So if we click that, remember that zone was not a mandatory attribute. And again, as I said, I purposefully left it unset or not set on the majority of my issues to demonstrate this for us. This almost becomes, I don't want to say useless, but it becomes less accurate than the rest of my metrics, than the metrics that are mandatory. Because now my mechanical user has 81 issues that have not been stamped with a specific zone. Right now, it appears that my mezzanine is a very problematic area, but those 81 issues might all be on the showroom floor. So I may have just as many or more issues in another zone, but because it wasn't mandatory, I was able to push those issues into BIMTrack without that metadata. So keep that in mind. Like I said, in your project settings, think about what it is you want to be extracting from our metrics. If we had, kept zone as a or kept the zone as a mandatory location, this would have been full of information. Great. From the looks of it right now, my mechanical user is looking at the mezzanine, dropping down, saying, show me the priority of those issues. There are a lot of medium priority issues here, just a couple of critical, even fewer high priority issues. So maybe it's time to take these 84 medium priority issues and distribute the load. So we can select those issues. We can say, you know what, show me the status of them. And immediately I notice that 21 of those issues are closed. So that's a big relief. I'm really interested in the 59 issues that are new. I haven't even seen these ones yet. And that's because I'm just finishing up these last two. So let's go down and take a look at the 59 new issues. We can see the discipline, the phase, the type. So what are these? They're all clashes. We can head to those 59 issues. The filtering is on. Let's take almost half of them, select all, multi-edit, and let's reassign them to Tony, who I noticed in the metrics didn't have any issues assigned to him. So when we send it to our colleague or the other mechanical user, perfect, we can close that down. When we refresh our metrics page here, we now see that my mechanical user has 29 or 30 less issues assigned to her, and my other mechanical user now has some work on their plate. Perfect. One of the attributes that specifically is used when pulling issues in from Navisworks, so this is big for our coordinators, is the issue group. We pull the clash test name into a filterable option, and that's issue group. I like knowing what clash test those issues came out of. And if an issue is not coming out of a clash test, I want to know what saved viewpoint it came out of. And if it's not coming out of the Navisworks environment, or if it is coming out of Navisworks but not with one of those automated tools, I want to know that it came out of Navisworks. I want to know that it came out of Revit or Solibri or AutoCAD MEP. Whatever it is, this is something that, in my opinion, is very valuable. I can see what clash test in my model is producing the most, the biggest amount of issues. If I'm in Revit, I can see all of the issues that have been created in the Revit environment. I can see who's creating them. I can see who they're being assigned to, what they are. What am I discovering in Revit? I haven't discovered any clashes in Revit. I've uncovered code violations, generic issues, modeling errors, and I've created a request. And if I go to the issue page right here, all of these issues are going to be coming out of the Revit environment. It's a nice way for me to see where issues are coming from and what they are. I know that an issue coming out of one of these clash tests, out of Navisworks from the clash detective, they're all going to be clashes. That's what I'm publishing them as. What are these manual issues coming out of Navisworks? Show me what they are. Again, there's 3 clashes here, but the majority of them are modeling errors. This is valuable information. This is very interesting for me. And like I said, we may start providing answers to questions we didn't know we had. So by selecting and following, multiple paths, we're going to start really, extracting valuable information from the metrics. We're going to want to make more of our attributes mandatory so that all of this information is data rich. So these are the paths and these are the donuts or pie charts. When we get to the bottom here, we have the total versus closed issues graph right here. I'm going to take a second here, guys, to catch my breath and remind you that if you guys do have any questions, there's a question and answer portion of the Zoom meeting. That's where you guys can put in your questions. I see some questions already going through and they've been answered. Push them in there, not a problem. All right, let me stop this poll as well. Just give me a second here, guys. Sorry about that. Here we go. Total versus closed issues. Again, we're going to see some of those numbers that we're familiar with from our little sticky note. And let's just talk about the legend down there in the bottom corner. The green part, number of issues. The blue, closed. Obviously, if I hover over one of these nodes, it tells me the total number of issues in the project versus how many of them were closed on that given day. So now it looks like my chart is moving pretty much in sync around here. So from mid-February to just the beginning of March, things look like we're going pretty well, stable. The number of issues being created and the number of issues being closed were pretty in sync. And then it looks like it's getting a little bit closer here, so I can see that we're catching up. We will never see this green portion of the chart, the graph here, drop. We will always have issues in the project. What we're looking for is this blue portion to catch up and have all of the issues closed within the project. So when we look at it from a 30,000 view, range here looks good. Okay, looks like we're catching up. But if we start to get a little bit more granular and we start taking a look at the daily number of issues that are being closed, we may start seeing patterns like I see right here. So on the 23rd, I had 34 closed issues. Let's just talk about closed issues for now. The next day, 24th, I had 184 closed issues. I see another spike in the number of closed issues here. So on the first, I had 206, and on the second, I had 341. And then the last spike, I had 367, and it went to 486. So that was on the 9th, and this was on the 2nd, and this was on the 24th. If I take a look at my calendar here, the 9th was a Monday, the 2nd was a Monday, and the 24th was a Monday. I'm seeing spikes in the number of issues being closed on Mondays. And I can immediately think of why. And that's because I've asked my subcontractors to publish new models at the end of the week, or that's when we've agreed upon that they will provide me with updated design coordination models. Great, so I'm importing those NWCs probably or obviously on Mondays. I'm rerunning the clash detective and I'm seeing a whole bunch of issues being closed. And the fact that I'm not seeing spikes, or here's a little bit of an increase right here, just 84 issues. The fact that I'm not seeing large spikes in the number of issues being created means we're doing a very good job of actually closing these issues out. And the project is progressing in a healthy manner. So if we stay on this path, we're going to start seeing that blue portion catch up to the total number of issues, so that green portion, in no time. Check out your total versus closed issues. You're going to be able to see patterns like this. So I'm hoping you guys see patterns like this as well. And again, it's indicating that large numbers of models are being closed, typically right after they were published. And of course, you guys have start dates and end dates. So if I wanted to specify, a very specific portion in time, so if I just wanted to see what's been going on since the 1st of March on a daily basis, you get very, very granular too. So you have that ability. So those are the metrics, guys. Again, it's all about following paths, extracting that metadata that we've made mandatory. That's the best way we can make sure we have a lot of data-rich information here. Now our metrics are going to tie into our reports. So let's head to the reports page. Perfect. If you guys are familiar with the issues page and the filtering methods that we use there, you will be very familiar with our filtering right there. Perfect. We have the ability of creating templates, and we'll do that in a second. But right here, we see quick filters. And if we drop down the quick filter, which is not set, I see the quick filter that I created on the issues page. 167 new issues, or those 17 critical issues. So if I select this one, I see it fill in the type, the priority, and the status. If I were to print the report right now, it would generate 17 critical new clashes for me. Pretty straightforward. We don't want to be reworking, coming in here, finding those issues. I went from the metrics, followed a path, went to the issues page, created that quick filter, and when I got to the reports, I'm able to create a report of the issues that met that criteria. If we don't want to use that filter, we can just clear it out, and we can add our own filter. So I typically see these reports being used for coordination meetings. So that's the path we'll follow today. Story we'll tell, and we'll go through these attributes. Some of them make a lot of sense, and some of them need a little explaining, such as title. Often we think that I'm going to write coordination meeting report template right here because that's the title of my report. This is actually filtering for the title of an issue. So if I've been creating issues with the level name saved within it, I could write that right here. So any issue that has the word MES or first floor in the title of the issue would get filtered and included in this report. If I'm looking to be very specific here, or sorry, not very specific, very generic with this issue, I want to include all of the issues with every title, any words, anything in there, leave title blank. Description, same thing. We're not going to give this report a description. We're filtering for specific words, numbers, whatever the case is that are within the description of the issue itself. Sometimes fire rating is put in there, sound rating. So if I'm generating a report for, excuse me, for walls that just have a 2-hour fire rating, and I know that because of the nomenclature I've used when extracting that information from Navisworks in the form of quick properties, that this was the attribute used in Revit on those walls to provide me with the fire rating, it would extract any issue that contains 2-hour. Just like that, and it's going to generate a report just for that. That's what description does. Then in the assign to, obviously we see all of the users on the project, so we can say, we'll get back to assign to actually. Let's not get hung up on it too long. Types. And maybe I just want to generate a report for all my clashes and modeling errors. So I put those two types right here. It's now excluded every other type of issue, every request, every financial issue, any code violation. These are the only two types of issues we're looking at. We left title blank, description, assigned to. That means include everything. Priority, maybe we just want to see medium, high, and critical. And as those low priority issues increase in severity, they'll get included in this report. Status. I only want to be generating a report for my active issues. So I wouldn't include closed or resolved issues, but I would like to see in progress issues, maybe new issues, or maybe issues that have been reopened. Then I think about that for a second, and if I've implemented my new issues or unseen issues mentality, maybe I wouldn't want to include those in this report, because I know that we're going to be talking about issues that my users haven't even acknowledged yet. So again, depending on the workflow that we've put in place will depend on how we see our metrics and how we extract our reports. The more granular we are, such as in my case here, the more specific I can be. If we're just creating new issues or opened issues, we would say, let's include all opened issues here. We wouldn't have that in progress versus new mentality. We'd be talking about issues that perhaps they hadn't seen yet. So you can get very, very specific. Now, some of my issues do have a zone associated to them. Some of them don't. Like I said, this was not a mandatory attribute, so I'm going to leave it blank. Same thing with phase. I don't need to go through there and specify a phase. Same thing with discipline, issue group, very specific. I know I have a lot of options here, but perhaps I'm interested in seeing the issues that have come from every platform, that have come from, excuse me, every clash test. So let's again leave that blank. Creation date and due date. I'm able to start specifying date ranges. So maybe I only want to see issues that were created, let's go back a little bit. February 18th. That is my minimum creation date. Anything created before that will not be included in this report. So I'm only interested in seeing issues that were created within the last 3 weeks, in my case. Maybe I'd like to go back and say, I just want to see issues created within the last month. And maybe I'll create a very specific report that has a max date of February 10th. So anything that was created before that requires extreme attention because it's likely overdue. So if we don't want to play with creation dates, we can remove that. And if I say, I just want to see issues that are due by next week, we put in next week's due date right here in the max due date. If I wanted to create a report that shows me overdue issues, all I would need to do, put today's date. It's going to show me issues that are past due. Today's the last day that those issues can be due. So anything that was due before it becomes overdue. Let's just push our due date a few back to the end of next week. Perfect. Or 2 weeks. Yeah, 2 weeks from now. Great. Again, if you guys have questions, the question and answer portion of the Zoom meeting, great place. Issue grouping. It ties into how we're going to sort these issues, but it supersedes it as well. So bear with me here for a second. I've opted to display only issues of my top three severities, medium, high, and critical. I'm also looking for issues that are due up until a certain date. But what I would really like to see and talk about in my report that I'm about to generate are the overdue issues first. I know for a fact I'm going to be generating issues, or the issues in this report are going to be overdue. So I want to group them by their due date. And I want that date going up in time, obviously, from the past to the present. So we ascend that date. And then I'd like to talk about issues that are more severe in the project. So we'll go with priority. We'll also make that ascending. Now it's going to show me my overdue critical issues first. And then it's going to show me my overdue high priority, then overdue medium, then my on-time critical, and then on-time high and on-time medium. So I've grouped with a very specific intelligence, and it's still going to sort them by number. It's still going to descend their direction, so from the most recently created, but overdue first and then priority. But that's the grouping mentality, and then it sorts after that. We'll see in a second exactly what it does. And then we get to issue properties and the metrics. So here are our friends, the metrics again. We can show all the properties. This makes these reports extremely data rich. If it's not what we want, switch it off. We can switch off the metrics as well. And then you are able to pick and choose what it is that you want displayed in this report. I would like to see what these issues are. And if they contain a zone, I would like to see those zones. So display the zone for me. I'd like to see what it is, its status, its severity, maybe the due date, and where it came from. And perhaps the discipline as well. Perfect. Whatever else we would like to include, you have that option. You can turn on phase, description, whatever you'd like, expose that property. When it comes to the metrics, I don't like to show everything. I like to match up those metrics with the properties that I've exposed. So I'll go by priority, status. I don't need to see the disciplines by metrics. It's fine. I do want to include the average opened issue age. This is going to display the average age of those issues that are included in this report. So we may see a different number than we saw in the metrics, because now we're looking at a different sample size. We're not looking at the 870 something issues. We'll find out how many issues we're looking at. And let's go by assign to and type. One of the options here I would never turn on in this example is the average time to close an issue. And the same goes for the total versus closed issues graph we had just seen on the metrics. And that's because I've opted not to include closed issues in this report. It would tell me that the average time to close all of these open issues is 0 days. So I leave that off. And my total versus closed issues, it would just show me a chart of how many issues had been created any day. So it's not going to be very interesting to me. Leave that off. Then I have the ability of including archived issues. I don't want to be generating this report with those issues, so I leave that off. And again, including archived issues, an archived issue is considered closed, so we leave that off. We've got a couple of advanced options down here. I've got issues per page. It's going to auto select that or auto define that for me, but I could put, 1 issue per page, or I could try to fit 2 issues per page. I like to keep that to auto because it's going to fit those issues onto the page as best as possible. What really defines or specifies how big an issue is the number of comments that could be on the issue and the number of images that are attached to it. Speaking of images and comments, right after that we have include comments. This will either show or not show the comments that have been made on an issue, and then combining all comments. I'll generate a quick report in a minute with this option toggled, and we'll see exactly what the difference is. And I'd like to add a little summary to the report, and I'll explain the summary in a second. It's very simple. The metrics defined, properties, good. We've grouped them, and we've specified a very unique criteria. Template. Let's make this a shared template. This is for our coordination meeting. Up. Report template. Oh, we don't have to write template. We know it's a template. Add. Perfect. We never have to go through that filtering criteria condition again. We're ready to print that report. It's opening in a new tab. It's going to ask me if I'd like to actually print it. I'll say cancel. We have the ability of scheduling reports. So here's my template. It automatically, oops, this one here, coordination meeting report. This is our weekly coordination meeting right there. We host that on a weekly basis. We do that every Tuesday. So starting next Tuesday, maybe our coordination meetings are at 8:30. So at 7:30 a.m., I would like this report sent out to the architectural team, the BIM track team, fire plumbing, mechanical, all of my teams that are contributing to this project. Or, again, this dates back to the last month's webinar. We talked about teams and users and why I create an all users team. This is just going to send it out to all of my contributing users. So when I schedule that task, perfect, every Tuesday at 7:30 a.m., I get an email that says your report is ready, and it sends me a link to this report right here. Let's head back here for a second. Add a summary to the report. This is the summary. Total project issues, total printed issues. It's telling me what I've asked it to include. I wanted to see the issues that were assigned to all of my users. I only wanted to see clashes and modeling errors that are in progress or reopened, and that include all of the other filtering criteria. Here's how they're broken up amongst my users. There's their priorities, and then I get to each individual issue. There's some images attached to them. Perfect. You can see that, oh, sorry, I didn't mention this. We passed a bunch already. This one's overdue, February 28th. Oh, I may have done it the wrong way for my, what's it called? My priority. Here's an overdue critical issue. If I have any questions about it, I can see it's in progress, critical. It affects the architectural, mechanical, and structural steel team. I can open that issue from the report, make any modifications I may need to make to the issue, add any comments from the meeting. Maybe the mechanical team couldn't make it, so I tag the mechanical team, post that, perfect. We can close it down. We're back in the reports. Next week, when we receive a brand new report, it's actually going to generate a new link for us. And that's because if I go back up, and we'll use this one, to the top here, these reports are snapshots in time. They're dated and time-stamped because I want to know exactly how many issues were included on that day. This is not a dynamic link. It's smart. What I can do here is take out this little show printing page portion. This is just a regular HTML. And what I like to do with that, and I'll show you guys here in a second, here's the best way I can do this, is if I paste that link into an incognito window, I'm still able to open it. This means I'm able to send that report to anybody, the client, the representative, someone who's not contributing to the BIMTrack project. And when they try to open an issue, it will prompt them to sign in. So they can't access anything, they can't make comments, change anything. So we're able to share those links with anybody. Let's just close that down. Why did I create a template and make it shared? Well, we just saw, I think, what was it, 79 issues? Let's say my mechanical user logs into BIMTrack. We'll use Chrome for this example right here. Okay, we'll go in as the architect. Same hub, same project, heads to the same report page, sees that template right there. It fills in the same criteria, but then my architect is able to put in his or her name, his colleague's name, and then print that report to see that they don't have any issues assigned to them in that report. What about my mechanical user? Would be able to do this. Let's just do it from here. My mechanical user could use the same quick filter, or template rather, put in both of their names and hit print. And now they're able to see that out of all of the issues that are going to be discussed in next week's coordination meeting, they're responsible for 52 of those issues. Perfect. Let's clear all this out. Let's just look for issue 629. Let's combine all the comments. So we don't need any issue properties or metrics. Let's say print. These are the comments, the discussion going back and forth, this image here, this image, and then more additional comments. If we do not combine the comments and we print this, it has all of the comments here and then the images down below. So it separates the images from the comments that have been added to the issue. So that's it, guys. That's all I wanted to run through with you guys today. Please, if you guys have any questions, I can see that there are 10 answered questions up there in the question answering period. Before you guys start dropping out, I also have a post-webinar poll that I'd like you guys to fill out if you didn't mind. Just gives me a little bit of feedback on what it is we covered today. Let me go like this. Let me see if there's any questions I can get out here. Roster. All right. So I see a lot of the questions that have come in have been answered. If you guys have any more, please keep pushing them into the Q&A portion of that, of the Zoom. I'd like to thank you guys too. So I see a few of you guys are dropping out once they finish that poll. Matthew, you're welcome. Gulshan Kumar, this session it has been recorded, yes. I'm going to let it process and then send it over to you guys, along with some information about the next BIMTrack webinar I'll be hosting next month. A little bit of an intro into that, or a little bit of a teaser into that will be coming your guys' way as well. So stay tuned, I'll be sending that over. You guys are able to share that recording with whoever you'd like. Oh, Decio, you're welcome. Appreciate it. Still see a few of you guys in here. If you've got any other questions, please, guys, don't hesitate.